And I've always had that same attitude that if you put in the hard work, the reward would follow. Yeah, my 2024 bow season, it was, to say the least, a train wreck. My target buck that I was after, beautiful, clean, typical, 6x5, he gave me the opportunity and I just messed up. I just hit him low in the shoulder, and I'm sure if you bow hunted long enough, you'd understand, things like that happen. Unfortunately, the buck ended up surviving the shot, and I ended up chasing him the rest of the year. But I just couldn't get him close enough to get another shot. But I was pretty pumped when I found both of his sheds, I think on February 5th and 6th. I have been hoping to find this shed since I figured this buck was off, and I'll show him to you right there. Oh yeah. Oh, look at that. That's a big horn right there. Are you kidding me? I just found number 2. I found the match. Here he is. What a beautiful buck. No chew marks. Unbelievable. Look at that. Putting those horns in my hands, it was just like, all right, now I got something to go after next year. So I was really looking forward to, the following bow season, which is this year. This spring, my son-in-law Brandon and I, we spent every day preparing, planting food plots, protecting the plots with electric fences, putting in, water holes, putting up our muddy blinds, tree stands. We did everything to prepare and get ourselves ready for the upcoming bow season. To add even more onto this story, this past spring and summer, Nicole and I bought a farm in southern Iowa and one in Kansas. So having places in Minnesota, Kansas, and Iowa, it meant that our time was even more divided. So as summer quickly arrived, I was pretty pumped. Things were looking good, and our stealth cans were really picking up. Buck activity was really increasing. But one buck that didn't show up that I was really looking for is the buck that I hit in the shoulder. He was a no-show. So I just had to wonder, if that injury, it caused him to die after I had found his sheds. As the summer wore on, one buck that stood above the rest that really caught my attention was a buck that we call the Big 8. Our history goes back to 2022, 23-ish, when Cashton and Nicole had first found his shed as a 2-year-old. He was nothing special. It was just a 4-point side. So as a 3.5-year-old, the following year, again, he was not on our list, and he started showing up. He was super residential. We knew that about him, but again, it was nothing special, and we didn't pay any attention to him. So now to spin the clock forward to 2024, the Big 8 is now 4.5 years old, and he starts showing up, but he's just not big enough again. And Cash and Nicole ended up finding his sheds out the Big 8 in February. They picked both sides up the same day. And this buck, he had showed signs of, sprouting into more of a non-typical, but he had definitely had mass starting, and we felt like at 5.5, this buck could do something. So now we're back to where we first started. All summer long, we hadn't got a picture of the Big 8 until he was pretty much fully developed. All of a sudden he showed up that one day and daylighted in one of our small plots, and I was excited. This deer, was huge bodied, but you could tell the mass that this deer was carrying. And he had, basically the same rack configuration, but again, he had more stickers. He had lost that one little non-typical point on the one side, but who cares? This deer, I guess people that have farms and raise deer, you know, from being, you know, a young deer to maturity, all know what I'm talking about. But I guess it's just half of it is just, you know, going after a deer that you raised. And that was it for me. I mean, the big 8, he was on my list and he was number 1. So there was one particular spot that I really felt like of any spot on our farm, it would be a plot that we call 8's plot. And it's a bean field plot. It's about 3 acres in size. And what makes that plot special is there's little to no intrusion on getting into the setup. It's easy access to this field setup. And I really felt like I was just gonna wait for my cameras to give me the intel, showing me that this deer was on a pattern coming into that plot. So I felt like we had a good setup and it was just gonna be a matter of time before that deer started showing up.
All right, here we go. Back in the blind that we set the other night. We did not see our target buck, the big 8. He just never showed. But the last couple days he's daylighted here in this field, this standing bean field. And I was in Kansas, so fortunately. So the weather's right tonight. We got a good wind and it's high pressure. So we're hoping he shows up. It's the only buck I want to shoot on this entire property. We got a lot of history with this deer. He's a cool deer. So he's just smarter than we are. So hopefully he shows. He just came out. He's in the beans right now. That's cool. Yeah, you're good. That's so cool. Let's mess with that miscanthus grass. Yep, that dog just needs to keep going. Just in there. Yeah. Stay in there. Okay. I have to like this little left.
So yeah, after having that encounter with the big 8, it just fueled my focus. And I put it in actually overdrive for me. You know, the big 8, it was just, I was consumed. And that's all I wanted to do is just hunt that deer. I didn't want to go anyplace else. I just wanted to stay home and hunt him. But I knew that I couldn't get foolish about it. I didn't want to gamble and give up the wind or, you know, tip him off that I was after him. But it seemed like he had that sixth sense that I was hunting him. It's now October 20th, and this is where the story gets really interesting. I'm hunting with my son Cash. It's his first solo trip to a tree stand. We're way up in a tree. Cash is hunting with the mission crossbow. And then we're just quietly sitting there enjoying a nice night, sitting over a water hole. And as we're sitting there, Cash all of a sudden says, "Dad, I see a buck coming." So I, of course, get the camera ready and get it focused. And guess who walks out? It's my buck. The buck I had hit in the shoulder from the year before and found the sheds off of. I had no inclination that this buck was alive until that moment, as I'm focusing my lens on him. I couldn't believe it. I immediately knew it was him just because of that drop beam on that one side. But it seemed like he had definitely shrunk. I don't know if it was from the injury, but he was smaller than he was the previous year. So this buck is coming in, and I know there's no stopping Cash. It just wouldn't be fair to him. I'm like, well, this is how the story's gonna end, right? The buck starts to come in, he's coming to the water, and he stops and he hits this licking branch, and he's just standing back there messing around, over this licking branch, and then all of a sudden I see his attitude change, like, what was that? And he gets a backdraft of our wind, and it doesn't take him long. He turns and he slips back out the same way he came. And Cash, he was devastated. And in hindsight, I probably could have stopped him, but even for an experienced archer, that would have been a tough shot. So I just let him go off, right? And it was a cool encounter. It confirmed, hey, my buck is alive. So now I'm faced with the question, right? Do I hunt the big 8 or do I hunt my buck from last year? Tough decision. It's now October 23rd. Time is ticking. That night, we have kind of a westerly wind, not a northwest, which I need to hunt the box blind, but I'm starting to get desperate. I'm starting to let my guard down. I decide to go and hunt the box blind. I know with a westerly wind that we're gonna have to keep all the windows shut, everything sealed up, put out a bunch of nose jammer, and try to fool these deer if they do get in our wind. Guess what happens? We're sitting there, and we got all the windows sealed up, and we got deer all around us. They are not getting us, even some right straight downwind of us. Our windows are a bit fogged up just because Brandon and I are both there. And I'm watching some deer out in the beans, and then there's some deer right in front of us at the water hole, and all of a sudden, boom, there he is. The big 8 is coming through our shooting lane behind the water hole, and he's going straight out into the field. He gives us no time to get the windows open and get a shot off. So we sit there and we watch the big 8 chase does all over the field, all night long. He really wasn't even focused in on eating, and he certainly didn't want to come back to the water, which we felt maybe he could have. But turns out, he just chased all night. Eventually, he chased a doe off and disappeared into the woods. And I really felt like, wow, this could be my last chance. Who knows? But that happens sometimes, And at one point, I remember the buck was turned broadside in the beans, and he was like at 50 yards, right? But I had just got my new Matthews arc, and I had just got it sighted in that day. And I had shot it, I felt very comfortable, even at some distance, but this buck was like at 50, 55 yards, and I told Brandon, should I try him? And Brandon talked me out of it. He goes, I think you just be patient, maybe he'll get closer. And I thought to myself, well, this could be my only opportunity, and I didn't shoot. I just didn't feel comfortable, with a new bow in my hand, even though that thing shoots like money. I decided not to take the shot, and eventually the buck worked off chasing a doe, and that was that.
From the work site to a quiet family meal, Jockey Outdoors Collection is made to move with you. Our clothes stay comfortable through every cast, every chore, every laugh. Rugged, breathable, ready so you can fish, work, and come home to what matters. Jockey Outdoors, built for a lifetime of outdoor adventure.
It's now October 31st, and I know that I only got a few days left before the Minnesota gun season starts. And if I don't get the big 8 on the ground, it could be too late. So we get it in the blind, we got another good northwest wind, and I really feel like tonight is my night. If I'm gonna get this deer on the ground, it's gonna be then. And we start having deer filter into the field. I mean, it's a good night. A lot of deer activity. We have a high pressure system that moved in, and the deer were on their feet. And we start seeing deer. Sure enough, here comes the big 8. He steps out on the far side of the field and starts bumping does. And I really felt like he could come to the water. A couple times he kind of looked our way, but didn't pay any attention. We had does and stuff that also came out. They all walked into the water, but it's like he was watering somewhere else is all I could figure. So that night, he just chased around the field and fed for a little bit, and then off he went. And I knew that some kind of miracle would have to happen for me to get the big 8 on the ground. It's now November 6th, and I'm getting wore out. This deer is, he's wearing me down. And, I know you've heard this before, but, once you get kind of zoned in on something, you just never want to give up until you succeed. And this buck his habits were changing. And that was proven because on November 6th, I got a stealth cam photo of the buck standing on a new water source that he hadn't really frequented at all until now. So I'm thinking to myself, well, I got a muddy tree stand set up 20 yards from that water hole, and if I got another northwest wind, I can move in and hunt him. And I look at my phone, and sure enough, the next morning is going to be a northwest wind. So I call Carson that night. I said, Carson, what are you doing? Can you film me in the morning? And Carson says, absolutely. And I'm continuing on that night, looking at my phone, and boom, all of a sudden I look down on one of our Kansas properties, and there is a giant standing there. Never seen the buck before, don't know where he came from, but nevertheless, he's a giant, and he's standing there, and he's on my camera several times. And now, all of a sudden, I'm faced with a big decision of my life. I'm like, do I stay and hunt the big 8 that I know is on a pattern tomorrow morning? Or do I just gamble and go to Kansas and go after this stranger deer, hoping that he's still going to be there when I get there? One thing I've learned a long time ago is, and I've learned this from a lot of great hunters that I've sat in the tree with, it's like once big buck shows you he's doing something once, he'll probably do it again. And I know the big 8's on a pattern, but I'm more focused in on this stranger deer because he's much bigger, and I know he's not going to probably stay there just because he's not a deer I know. So I call Aaron, and Aaron says, yeah, I'll meet you in the morning. So at 4:30 a.m., we're headed to Kansas. We get to Kansas, and an hour and a half later, I shoot the giant. My season right then turned around. But as I was, holding that buck in my hands, I kept thinking back to the 8, wondering if that buck would still be here when I got home. As luck would have it, it didn't turn out that way. My neighbor ended up shooting him during that first weekend of the Minnesota gun season, which, hey, that's hunting. I'm happy for my neighbor because he did it right, and he has just as much right to hunt that deer than I do. But to add even more insult to injury, that morning that I was going to stay home and hunt him with Carson, he ended up daylighting that morning on my camera. So if I would have been in the tree, I would have got the big 8. Most likely got a shot at him anyways. But it turned out all right. I got that stranger deer in Kansas, which was a giant. And that's hunting, right? You don't get everyone, but for some reason that big 8 got under my skin. Just to add a little bit more to the story, which I know the story's already getting deep enough, but the buck that I was hunting in 2024 and hitting the shoulder and found the sheds off of, the one that Cashin had the encounter with, ended up getting shot as well. So yeah, that didn't leave me much to go after both of those bucks are dead. We had a pretty nice 9-pointer coming out. I ended up going with Nicole, and she ended up shooting that 9-pointer with the center, and so I ended up filming her. So she was tagged out, but here I am sitting with an unused tag, not knowing what buck to go after, or if there even was one. But as luck would have it, God shined down on me, and all of a sudden on December 7th, a buck that I'd had an encounter with last year during the bow season showed up. And guess what? He was a big 8. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. What are the odds of having 2 giant 8-pointers to go after in 1 year? Nevertheless, I'm like, okay. I figured out exactly, what that buck might be doing. and what plot he might hit with due to the wind, and the weather conditions were setting up perfect. We had super cold temperatures, snow on the ground. It was really not meant for a pleasant hunt, but it really was the kind of weather you needed to get a mature buck on his feet late season.
All right, well, we just made it up to our parking spot. So it'll be interesting. I'm gonna try to carry all this gear in. And our blinds just over on the next ridge. We're kind of parking on this side so we can get in quiet. But here we go. Hopefully we can get a big buck on the ground today. It's my second night self-filming myself. We're set up in a new blind tonight on a piece of property that we manage. Looking to try to shoot a big management buck. There's a couple big 8's coming in here, so we're gonna keep this short. Gotta give up on that 10 back home. Maybe he shows back up. Who knows? But we just got a few days left of the muzzleloader season, so we thought we'd come down here and try to get one of these 8's on the ground. Here we go. That's him.
Brap.
Oh boy. I think we got him. Oh yeah. Down. Yes. Got her down in Minnesota on a big 8. I can't believe that. Unbelievable. Self film. I was just sitting here looking at my phone. All of a sudden I looked up and they were already in the beans. I saw one doe come in and I look up and there's already bucks. The big one's already standing there. Been a long season here in Minnesota. Tagged out. Yeah. Sun is still up. Can't believe it. The old TC dropped the hammer on him. Oh, I couldn't get the other camera running. Here we go. Gotta go try to film the recovery by myself. That ought to be interesting. Look at him, laying right here.
Here he is. Oh, look at that buck, huh? Big old mature 8-pointer. Couldn't be more excited to have this big guy on the ground. It's a heck of a good deer, especially late season. It's a good deer anytime, but I'm excited to at least punch my tag here in Minnesota on a big mature. What a crazy season it turned out this year. You know, the encounters, the close calls. I mean, it's all about hunting. And that's, I guess, why I'm so addicted. I love deer hunting. And that's why it keeps me coming back year after year. I feel humbled and I feel blessed to have had the season I had this year. And I can't wait for next year. But for now, I'm going to enjoy the success I had. And it starts next week all over again. I can't wait.